Part 74. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 731. Yizhou Provincial Order Committee, Special Operations Department Office. Wearing a black uniform of the Order Committee, Mo Yanshao stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, talking on an encrypted phone in his hand. Mo Yanshao's figure was like a hard sculpture. He squinted at the military base outside the window, at the planes taking off and landing and the sergeants and vehicles coming and going. The look on his face was as cold as ice, and the look between his eyebrows he had an expression of sadness that was difficult to conceal, and what came over the phone was Tupolu's voice of irrepressible anger. Mo Yanshao listened quietly. After knowing that Li Yunzhou had successfully received Tupolu and Fang Lingshan, his hanging heart was relieved. He knew the reason for Tupolu's anger, and he was also the same. Outside the window, night has fallen, but the outside of the building is brightly lit. The entire Order Committee is extremely busy, and various military equipment and personnel are intensively mobilized in the base outside. At this moment, the battle between countries around the world and the Eye of the Devil has reached a fever pitch. After the night of Holy Advent, the Devil's Eye ceased to exist for several years, and human countries were given a short period of time to recover. Just when everyone thought that the human countries could eliminate the threat of the Devil's Eye in one go, 7 months ago, the Devil's Eye made a comeback. The Evil Eye has plunged all human countries into greater panic and disaster. The Eye of the Devil cultivated the zombie virus carried by the demon rat into the more terrifying K virus, which can be cross-infected between humans and animals. The magic rats infected with the K virus completely transformed into zombies, became more difficult to kill, and possessed more powerful destructive power and lethality than before. Humans infected with the K virus turned into zombies and completely transformed into beasts, becoming even more powerful. The madness and horror. In addition to the K virus, the Devil's Eye has already set up more than 200 demon rat population breeding and incubation bases in underground and dense forests and even deserted places around the world. Those newly bred demon rat descendants, with their huge numbers, advantage, carrying the K virus, like an army on the march, began to wreak havoc around the world. Under the attack of armies from all over the world, nearly half of the more than 200 demon rat breeding bases in the Devil's Eye have been destroyed in the past 2 years. However, there are still many demon rats in the demon rat breeding bases from the Devil's Eye. It broke out of the base and caused a disaster and catastrophe that was more harmful than all previous space invasions. Almost overnight, the K virus appeared in more than 100 countries and the Earth. Countless cities fell. An army of zombies infected by the K virus and zombified demon rats penetrated everywhere, completing the globalization process in a short period of time. Diffusion. Demon rats are good at digging holes and surviving underground. Those zombies and demon rats together can easily break through the pursuit and interception of surface armies through underground layers and underground passages. They appear in cities behind the armies and defense lines of various countries and destroy cities one after another, causing more and more people to be infected with the K virus and become zombies who only know how to kill. Under the horrific K virus, all countries are struggling, and some small countries and cities have ceased to exist in the past 2 years. Today, most of Nanguangzhou has fallen and has become a horrible hell. In Nanguangzhou alone, the number of magic rats and zombies carrying the K virus may exceed 300 million. Europe is in chaos. Some European countries and cities that have just survived have been destroyed. The K virus has appeared in some provinces and cities in the southern part of Dian Kingdom, including many cities in Muzhou Province, Guilin Province, and Xianshu Province. Has fallen. To some extent, the war that determines the survival of mankind has arrived. But under such circumstances, misfortune never comes singly in Dian. The situation suddenly changes, and the power struggle among the top brass of the Military Control Commission in Dian, and the struggle between the new president and the summoner group becomes more and more intense. A turbulent undercurrent quietly surges in Dian. Move, the old man Wang Zai was forced to resign from the Military Control Commission a few months ago. The entire group of summoners in Dian, or to be more precise, the entire group of summoners in the Order Committee of Dian. Under pressure and criticism that outsiders cannot imagine, some people want to blame the Committee of Order for the panic caused by Devil's Eye and all the difficulties and losses the country is facing now. Behind this are dirty political tricks and top-level power games. Even in the Yazoo Provincial Order Committee's base right in front of him, Mo Yanshao could feel the oppressive atmosphere. The summoners in the entire base were in panic, and their morale had been greatly affected. CTMD, those bastards want to play us to death. I am so worried that I will not do it anymore. I will go directly to the capital area to settle accounts with those bastards. I will kill everyone I can. Aren't they noble and superior? Aren't they from a rich family? Let's see who is afraid of whom. Those bastards are the worms of the country, and all the benefits belong to them. If you want to fight hard, let others take the blame. If you want to take the blame, let us. Tupolu's voice started from the call came like an angry dragon breathing fire. Old Tu, calm down. Young Master Mo Yan took a deep breath. Aren't you injured? After this mission, I took the opportunity to rest for a while. I contacted the old man a few days ago, and the old man asked everyone to be patient. Things in the capital area are not as simple as we think. After hearing the old man's explanation, Tupolu's voice on the phone became slightly quieter, but you could still hear the heavy breathing in his nose, like an angry bull. You have a lot of connections here at the headquarters. That rumor, is it true? I have heard that there are people in the capital area who want to negotiate peace with the Eye of the Devil, so they want to use us as a vote. Who did you listen to? You don't have to worry about this, just tell me if this is the case. Mo Yanshao was silent for a moment. I know that some countries in Europe can't hold on anymore. According to the news from the intelligence department, someone in the European Parliament has been in contact with the Eye of the Devil through secret channels and is preparing to pass the so-called neutrality bill. Some of the provisions in this bill will whitewash Devil's Eye. Once the bill is passed, the media in Europe will ban the use of the name Devil's Eye, and will destroy all news reports and books about Devil's Eye. The Eye of the Devil became the Eye of God in Europe and became a legal monotheistic religious organization that can carry out legal activities and even establish a country. Tupolu on the other side of the phone seemed to calm down and sneered. So, there are people in the capital who want to imitate the same example, hijack public opinion and conspire with the Eye of the Devil to sell out the country in the name of saving the country. No matter what happens in the future, their family will continue to be rich and prosperous for generations. Even if the person with the Devil's Eye finally becomes the emperor of this country, even if the Devil's Eye eats people and sacrifices human beings, their family and their wealth will not suffer any loss. We are always the upper class, and we are their stumbling block and trading weight. Our Military Control Commission is not the European Parliament, Mo Yanshao said in a deep voice. The old man was forced to resign from the Military Control Commission, and you are still talking about this? You are my favorite general. If they touch the old man, they will not let you go. You should be careful. I will not wait for those bastards to bully me. Come on, you know better than me how many colleagues on the Order Committee have died this year. I have seen through it all. Some people in the capital area are like wolves internally, eating people's flesh and drinking people's blood, and externally they are like dogs. They will stick out their tongues and wag their tails when they see someone with a stick in their hand. I don't need to tell you what kind of virtue they have. Okay, hang up. Young Master Mo Yan wanted to say something more, but found that Tupolu over there had hung up the phone a little irritably. Listening to the blind tone coming from the other side of the phone, Mo Yanshao shook his head, with a bitter and helpless smile on his face. He may not want to admit it, but most of the current situation and problems in Dian country come from the capital area. Just as young Master Mo Yan put down the phone, He frowned slightly because he heard a burst of noisy and arrogant footsteps coming from outside his office. "Ah, who are you?" "This is the office of the head of the Special Operations Department." His female secretary's exclamations and obstructions sounded outside the office. "The Internal Affairs Supervision Department is working, get out of the way." As a rude voice sounded, the door to young Master Mo Yan's office was pushed open with force from the outside. The pale-faced female secretary staggered back from the door. 8 men in military uniforms walked in. The man walking in front was in his 40s, with slender eyes, high cheekbones, the rank of colonel, wearing a cape and black gloves. His eyes were like needles, smooth and cold, like a poisonous snake. He was domineering as soon as he entered the door, and finally fell on young Master Mo Yan's face. He smiled proudly and coldly. He took off his gloves and patted them gently. "Minister Mo, long time no see." "Dai Chi." Young Master Mo Yan also had a cold look. The Internal Affairs Supervision Department of the Military Control Commission received a report stating that the raid on Devil's Eye in Chongyang City commanded by Minister Mo 3 months ago resulted in the casualties of 3 Special Forces members and more than a dozen innocent people. Minister Mo was responsible for he has major command responsibilities. This is a regulatory order from the Ministry of Internal Affairs Supervision. Minister Mo, please come with us and cooperate with the investigation." The man named Dai Chi shook his hand and took out a document with a red seal. The official document was waved in front of young Master Mo Yan. Mo Yan Shao took a deep breath, nodded, and said calmly, "Okay, I'll go with you." Dai Chi sneered, waved his hand and winked. The 2 soldiers behind him stepped forward. One of them took out handcuffs and wanted to cuff Mo Yan Shao. Young Master Mo Yan's eyes widened, and anger surged from his body. A black mist appeared behind him. There seemed to be thousands of troops galloping in the black mist, trying to rush out. The handcuffs in the man's hands suddenly it became hot and red, and the man couldn't hold it anymore. He covered his hands and screamed, took a step back, and the handcuffs suddenly fell to the ground. "Young Master Mo Yan, what are you doing? Do you want to resist arrest?" Seeing young Master Mo Yan using the summoning spell, Colonel Dai Chi was so frightened that he took a step back, but he still pointed at young Master Mo Yan with a stern expression and shouted. The other few were wearing military uniforms. With a clatter, the men immediately pointed their weapons at Mo Yan Shao, with their fingers on the trigger, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. "Dai Chi, the regulatory order from the Internal Affairs Supervision Department of the Military Control Commission you got is not an arrest warrant. According to the internal supervision regulations of the Military Control Commission, I will cooperate with the regulations. You have no right to use handcuffs on me." Mo Yan Shao looked at Dai Chi and smiled. He smiled and said, "If I wanted to take action, you wouldn't even have the chance to pull the trigger. Dai Chi, speaking of which, I sympathize with you. Do you really think you've climbed a high tree? The person who sent you here is just treating you like a fool. You're just cannon fodder. Maybe you're just planning to use your life to force me to take action, so don't force me." As young Master Mo Yan spoke, he walked out of the office with his head held high. Dai Chi stared at young Master Mo Yan's back darkly. His face changed for a while. He gritted his teeth, waved his hand, and followed young Master Mo Yan out, like escorting a prisoner. At some point, the corridor outside young Master Mo Yan's office was already crowded with people. Those were the summoners who came running after hearing the movement and feeling the fluctuation of divine power. "Minister Mo. Boss." Most of the people crowded on both sides of the aisle were summoners from the Order Committee. They were all shocked and angry as they watched young Master Mo Yan being escorted out. "Everyone do your best, and I will cooperate with the investigation by the Internal Affairs Supervision Department." Young Master Mo Yan also comforted the people crowded on both sides of the corridor. In the end, young Master Mo Yan was put on a rotor helicopter and taken away. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 732. In the capital area of Dian Kingdom, deep underground. Xiaoping'an's clone sat cross-legged in the cave deep underground that was well protected by the formation disk. It looked majestic and its whole body flashed with colorful brilliance from time to time, accompanied by the crackling sound of muscles and bones. Ping An's spine and meridians undulate like a dragon and snake from time to time. This was a long 3 days, and Xiaoping'an had been in this state for 3 full days. When Xiaoping'an left the earth before, he was in the 6 Yang realm, but when he came back this time, he was already in the 8 Yang realm. He was not far away from the 9 Yang realm. The huge gap between the two realms was reflected in physical fitness. The final result was, it took Luo'an's clone 3 days to adapt to Xiaoping'an's current level of strength and complete the physical transformation from the 6 Yang realm to the 8 Yang realm. After the flashing light on his body gradually disappeared and calmed down, Xiaoping'an opened his eyes. The divine light in his eyes flowed like thousands of stars, and finally gradually gathered in the deep black pupils, disappearing little by little. This made Xiaoping'an the depth of his eyes looked even more intimidating. Huh! Xiaoping'an exhaled a long breath. The breath bulging out of his lungs was like the breath of a giant beast, forming a visible cyclone in this not-so-wide cave space, rolling up those on the ground. Torn rags flew everywhere. Xiaoping'an lowered his head and looked at his body, with a helpless smile on his face. In the past 3 days, with the completion of the transformation of his clone, all the clothes worn by this body were completely changed. The clothes down to his feet, including the shoes he wore, had been completely shattered by the energy of his body, and some even turned into ashes, all falling around him. He was completely naked at this moment. He had just been breathing out, these fragments started flying in this small space. Xiaoping'an, who felt cool all over, stood up, clenched his fist and waved it, forming a fearless handprint, and felt it for a while, then shook his head slightly and said to himself, well, it seems that this clone was just transformed by the spirit body. And this transformed body is just the body of a pure 8 Sun realm summoner. It does not have the power generated by fusing the body of a god, so it cannot mobilize the power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. However, on the earth in front of us, such power cannot be, that's enough. After muttering to himself, Xiaoping'an looked down at his naked body again, shook his head slightly and smiled bitterly. The clothes and fabrics on this earth do seem to be inferior to those in Yuan Kai world, and such a chi attack can't do anything. Bear it, luckily I have spare space equipment, otherwise it would be embarrassing. As he spoke, Xiaoping'an took out a brand new outfit from the space equipment and quickly put it on. Brown Bontanai leather shoes, fox black socks, white shirt, vest, black trousers with light stripes and matching suit, and a windbreaker. The suits and shirts and vests were made by Emily when Xiaoping'an was in Paris. They were all top quality goods. If Paris hadn't been in chaos during the war, in Emily's words, such fashion in Paris would not have been possible. The price of this custom-made outfit by Dormuil in the capital can exceed 100,000 euros. Due to the chaos and war, when Emily found a top tailor who was taking refuge somewhere to help him customize it, it only cost a few bags of flour, some ham sausage and a few jars of honey and a little cheese, and you're done. Putting on this brand new outfit, Xiaoping'an felt good. Then he waved his hand and put away the formation disc and puppet spider that protected the cave. In a flash, he disappeared from the place using the earth escape technique and quickly escaped towards the ground. Go. A moment later, Xiaoping'an walked calmly out of a quiet tree-lined avenue of the National University in the capital area. It was morning, and the weather was not bad. The avenue was lined with sycamores, next to it were lawns and gardens, and there was an observatory on campus. There were students in 2s and 3s walking in the avenue or riding bicycles. On the road, no one noticed that quietly, behind a tall sycamore tree at the intersection in the middle of the avenue, an extra person appeared out of nowhere, following the crowd towards the teaching building in the distance. When Xiaopinggan appeared at the intersection, even if someone saw him, they would think that he came from the other side, and it would not be abrupt at all. What Xiaopinggan missed most was Xianing, so the first thing he did when he returned to the capital area was to go to the National University in the capital area to see if Xianing was still here. According to time, Xianing should be graduating soon. It's hard to say whether he's in school or not. Just when Xiaopinggan was about to summon the God of Fortune boy and ask him to see where Xianing was, a burst of sound came from the sky. Xiaopinggan raised his head and saw two grey-painted fighter planes roaring past the sky in the capital area, causing a huge sound of breaking through the air. This made Xiaopinggan frown slightly. In Dian Kingdom, the airspace in the capital area is different from other places. The airspace here has strict jurisdiction regulations. Under normal circumstances, there will be no fighter planes passing through the city at will, unless it is wartime. Just as two fighter planes roared past, Xiaopinggan discovered two rotor helicopters flying past in the sky more than 10 miles east of the campus. All this seems to be commonplace for the college students of the national universities walking on the tree-lined avenue. When the huge roar of the fighter planes pierced the sky, not a single student raised his head to look at the sky or showed a strange look on his face. It seems like I'm used to it. Xiaopinggan immediately felt that the atmosphere in the capital area seemed to be different from the last time he came back. Looking at the school again, there seemed to be a lot fewer students laughing and chatting in the tree-lined avenue, and it was not as relaxed as the last time he came here. Looking carefully at the expressions of those students, Xiaopinggan also saw a trace of worry on the faces and brows of the students on campus. I heard that Nan'an City, the capital of Muzhu province, fell 2 days ago and was occupied by those demon rats and zombies. Those demon rats and zombies bypassed our army's defense line from underground. Fortunately, most of the people in Nan'an City have evacuated, but the mayor ordered the evacuation and stayed at the end. I heard that he died. He was a good mayor. Yes, there are fewer and fewer mayors like this. In many places, mayors evacuated first. By the way, the army will come to the school to recruit students in a few days. Do you want to go? I heard that as long as you join the army, you can get priority opportunity to be vaccinated against K virus. I heard a professor from the School of Biology say that the K virus can render all vaccines useless. How come a vaccine for the K virus is available so quickly? I don't know. Maybe the Military Control Council wants to use the vaccine to appease the people. Let's find time to go to the firearms hall to train tonight and get some credits. Maybe we will use it sometime. Okay, there are also fighting classes. I wonder if I can still choose the classes taught by the current instructors. The chatter of two boys walking on the road 100 meters away suddenly reached Xiaopinggan's ears, and Xiaopinggan's brows suddenly furrowed, until he participated in the sky mending project. The army of the Great Yan Kingdom would not arrive. Recruit new people in universities, because universities are not places to train soldiers. Has the policy of Dian Kingdom changed so much now that the army actually wants to recruit people in universities? There's something wrong with the atmosphere in this metropolitan area. Moreover, if Nan'an City, the capital of Muzhu province, was so likely to fall, why did those demon rats and zombies suddenly become so difficult to deal with? And the K virus, I have never heard of it. Xiaopinggan frowned, and he summoned the God of Fortune to find Xianing. The last time he and Xianing met, the God of Fortune had a unique sense of the people they met and could find them quickly. As soon as the God of Fortune boy left, the Special Service Communication Watch of the Order Committee worn by Xiaopinggan vibrated twice silently. Then came the hundreds of text messages that had been accumulated in the watch. Judging from the list, those text messages were all sent by Fang Lingshan, Li Yunzhou, Tupolu, and others. Among all text messages, the most content is 3 words: "Where are you?" Something must have happened in Great Yan Kingdom. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 733. Just when Xiaopinggan was looking at the information on the Special Service Communication Watch, the God of Fortune boy had already found Xuanning. Xuanning was wearing a light green sweater, a scarf, and black boots. She was sitting on a bench under a tall crabapple tree next to the Swan Lake behind the school library, with a satchel next to her. Facing the sparkling lake, chatting with the people next to him. There are swans and waterfowl playing in the lake, and there are several single-person kayaks swinging on the lake, which is particularly peaceful. After not seeing each other for many years, Xuanning has completely grown into a big girl. Not only has she grown taller, but her whole body has completely lost its youthfulness and immaturity, and now has a unique aura and beauty that is influenced by the artistic atmosphere. Her eyes were a little less confused and shy than before, and a little more wise and capable as an adult woman should be. However, her shoulder-length short hair still maintained the same appearance as before, revealing a somewhat unchanged look. Stubborn breath. A soft-faced and handsome boy in his 20s wearing a smart gray suit sat next to Xuanning, looking at Xianning's beautiful profile with some loving and gentle eyes. The boy was tall and had broad shoulders. They were sitting next to each other. Xuanning was not short, but the boy was a head taller than Xuanning. In a corner of the campus, two people were sitting together. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful and dignified. There was an indescribable feeling of tacit understanding. Many of the students passing by on the surrounding paths couldn't help but look at the two with envy. People come over. Next Saturday is my grandpa's 80th birthday. There is a dinner party prepared at home. Grandpa and my parents asked me to invite you to come with us. The boy was talking, seeming to have mustered up the courage. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's a small family gathering without too many outsiders. I think our relationship can be officially made public. Grandpa doesn't know about it yet. Is Grandpa's health okay? I didn't see Grandpa when I went to Songtao Garden last time. Xuanning nodded, slightly shy, but still asked softly, I'm busy doing something this semester. Graduation exhibition. I haven't visited Grandpa for a long time. I read everything in the newspaper. Don't worry, Grandpa is in good health. A summoner of his age is still in the prime of life. He was not in the capital area some time ago, but just had time to visit some old friends abroad, walk around and take a leisurely stroll. Relax. Oh. Xuanning nodded, I heard that the situation in the south is not very good. Will you be transferred to carry out the mission? The man didn't say anything. He just took out a small red notebook from his body and handed it to Xuanning. On the small notebook were the words Retired Officer Certificate. Xuanning took the small notebook and looked at it with a smile on his face. With a look of surprise, you retired, when did it happen? The man smiled and gently stroked Xianning's hair on the temples with a gentle and affectionate movement. Just last week, my situation was regarded as overdue service. I was supposed to retire at the end of last year. My father wanted to. I will develop in the army in the future. This time my grandpa retired and my father's thoughts changed a little. I retired. I can spend more time with you in the future. After returning to the metropolitan area this time, I will not leave again in a short time. Don't you want to open an art gallery? I have found a good place for you. It is on Benzo Avenue. It covers an area of more than 6,000 square meters and has 2 floors. I have people decorating it. You can create there with peace of mind in the future. I think you can definitely become a great painter. Don't worry, I saved this money myself, not using my family's money. I know you don't like it. Xianning's brows frowned slightly, and instead of showing too much excitement on his face, he looked a little serious. I still think you look better in military uniform. Although being a summoner of the army is a bit dangerous, the current situation requires that you contribute, like Sister and Ching and Uncle too. I think what they do is very meaningful and can help many people. The country also needs you. If I were a summoner, I would be like them. The man smiled bitterly. He felt that although Xuanning studied art, sometimes he was more like a soldier than him. He had a very strong and positive side in his character. He didn't know if this was influenced by his older brother. This was also Xuanning's. What fascinates her about Ning? The man shook his head slightly, and explained patiently and softly, there are some situations you don't understand. The situation in the army is more complicated than you think. I used to be the Legion priest of the army. This position has a lot of people are watching, because there are some changes in Grandpa's situation, and my side will inevitably be affected. If I don't take the initiative to give up this position, I may be hidden in the army later, and I may even become cannon fodder, so, after comprehensively considering all factors, I chose to retire voluntarily. My father also agreed. I will come back temporarily to rest. It does not mean that I cannot serve or contribute to the country. As a freelance summoner, it is actually okay. Do a lot of things. As he spoke, the man stretched out his palm and gently held Xuanning's hand in his. Actually, my brother and I are different. To be honest, although I am also a summoner, I am not the same at all. I envy the kind of life my grandfather, father, and uncle live. I really don't like to live a life of intrigues and intrigues. What I want most is to be with you and live an ordinary life. We can make a living by ourselves and go anywhere in the world. The place where I want to go, then I can watch you quietly painting, sketching, sculpting every day, leaving all the good things in life with your brush, and I will be satisfied if they become our lifelong memories. Before I met you, I am not proud of being a summoner at all. Only after meeting you did I realize that the thing I am most proud of as a summoner is that I can protect you and stay by your side when you need it. You are so powerful and rich, I just need to be your bodyguard and future husband. I've never seen such a thick-skinned person. Who said I wanted to marry you? Xuanning's face turned red and she wanted to take her hand out, but she only took 2 symbolic pumps and let the man hold her hand gently. She rested her head on the man's shoulder. The god of fortune boy was riding on the seat between the two of them, doing somersaults and smiling mischievously. He had a panoramic view of every move of the two. Naturally, Xiaopinggan also saw and heard it. Xiaopinggan, who had just walked out of the tree-lined avenue, did not expect that when he came back this time, Xuanning already had a boyfriend. As an older brother, it was a very complicated feeling to see his biological sister having a boyfriend. Xiaopinggan suddenly felt a little heartbroken and depressed. Who was that boy who dared to take Xuanning away from him? The school's campus is very large. Xuanning and the man are more than 1 kilometer away from where Xiaopinggan is. Xiaopinggan took a deep breath and strode towards where Xuanning and the man were. At this moment Xiaopinggan even temporarily forgot about the purpose of his return to Earth. At this moment, Xiaopinggan had only one idea in his mind, the idea of being a brother. Where did that bastard pretty face come from? How did you deceive Xuanning? If he finds out that that bastard has other purposes for approaching Xuanning, or is trying to deceive Xianning's feelings, no matter what background that bastard has, he will crush that bastard pretty face into ashes. Asshole. He actually dared to hug Xuanning and hold Xianning's hand. As an elder brother, he didn't agree yet. I went and actually kissed Xuanning on the face. You wait. Xiaopinggan looks calm on the outside, but in his heart, he feels like an angry dragon about to go berserk. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 734. Although Xiaopinggan knows that Xuanning will definitely have a family of her own when she grows up, and in her own life, Xuanning should also get married and have a boyfriend or husband. But knowing comes knowing, and reason belongs to reason. Emotionally, Just like all brothers when they see their girls bring back a boyfriend for the first time, almost all brothers will feel that those who are close to their girls have ulterior motives, which is difficult to let people know. Satisfy. Judging from Xuanning's appearance, she seemed to be familiar with the man's family. The man's family was probably either rich or noble in the capital area, so he was probably not an ordinary person. And just as Xiaopinggan strode towards where Xuanning was, what surprised Xiaopinggan was that an uninvited guest quietly appeared in front of Xuanning and the man. The uninvited guest is also a man in his 20s and under 30. He looks more mature. He is wearing a decent black suit that looks like high-end goods. He wears a bow tie and his hair is combed meticulously. He is equally handsome, but because of his maturity, he looks masculine, but his temperament is much sharper. The man appeared in front of Xuanning, but his eyes were fixed on the man sitting next to Xuanning. He squinted his eyes slightly and showed a slightly cold smile. "Wang Tongqing, why are you back? Are you in charge now? Deserter. Du Bin, Xuanning is my girlfriend, can't I come to see my girlfriend? If you think I am a deserter, you can go to the supervisory committee to sue me. Isn't it your best ability to complain behind my back?" Sitting there, the man next to Xuanning smiled slightly, and suddenly there was a sense of vigor in his body. The man named Wang Tongqing looked at the new man and said, the two men's eyes met, and the air was filled with a strong smell of gunpowder between men. The man named Du Bin raised his eyebrows, and immediately laughed again, as if he hadn't seen Wang Tongqing. He moved his hand, and a large handful of gorgeous white roses suddenly appeared on his hand. The man looked at Xuanning, a warm smile appeared on his face, and he handed the flower over directly. "Ning Ning, these are white roses that I personally selected in the garden. After I heard that you like white roses last time, I personally picked them in the garden at home. I planted some, I hope you like it. Du Bin, we are not too familiar and we are not suitable. You don't need to call me Ning Ning. I am Tongqing's girlfriend. Tongqing will misunderstand me." Seeing this man appear, Xuanning's face suddenly turned cold. "Come down, become polite and distant." This man named Du Bin, in terms of appearance and temperament, definitely belongs to the type that can make many girls scream. As soon as he appeared, many girls on campus passing by looked at him frequently, but they didn't know why. Xuanning doesn't like him. "Did you hear that? My girlfriend has spoken. You can leave." Wang Tongqing looked at the man named Du Bin coldly. The man named Du Bin was not angry either. He still looked at Xuanning and shrugged. "Last time I heard that Ning Ning was inquiring about your brother, and I happen to have some news about your brother, Ning Ning. Since you don't want to hear it, forget it," the man said and turned around to leave. "Wait a minute." Xuanning suddenly stood up and looked at the man with excitement. "You said, you have news about my brother?" "Well, one thing, Ning Ning, you know that I have many friends in the order committee, and I have a wide range of connections. I may not know things that others don't know." The man was still smiling. "Can you tell me?" The man smiled and handed over the white rose in his hand again. "Of course, we can have dinner together at the Golden Bay restaurant at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. If you can come, I will be happy to tell you the news I know. By the way, you can only come alone." Xuanning frowned slightly, but still took the man's white rose. The man raised his eyebrows, smiled, glanced at Wang Tongqing, then turned around and left. It wasn't until the man named Du Bin left that Wang Tongqing said, "Ning Ning, Du Bin is talking nonsense. I asked Grandpa about your brother. Grandpa said it was a state secret. Grandpa didn't want to talk to me." "He didn't, maybe you know." "I know." Sister and Qing and the others hesitate every time they talk. "I feel like they are hiding something from me and don't want to tell me the truth. I just want to know how my brother is doing now. I miss my brother." Xuanning looked at the white roses in her hands, her voice deepened, and her mood became a little depressed. Immediately, Xiaoning laughed again and looked at Wang Tongqing. Send me there tomorrow night. You wait outside the restaurant. I have seen many playboys like him, don't worry. Looking at Xiaoning's smiling face, Wang Tongqing felt relieved. After the two said a few more words, seeing that the time was almost up, the instructor arranged for Xiaoning to give lessons to the younger students, so he said goodbye to Wang Tongqing, and the two separated. The beautiful white roses were left on the chair by Xiaoning. Xiaoning said that the flowers were innocent and it would be a pity to lose them, so they left them here and anyone who liked them could take them away. A few minutes later, after Xiaoning and Wang Tongqing left, Xiaopinggan's figure appeared next to the bench. Xiaopinggan sat down, picked up the handful of white roses in his hand, and sniffed it gently. The look in his eyes instantly became serious. Perhaps in the eyes of others, this is just an ordinary beautiful white rose, but when Xiaopinggan took the flower in his hand and felt it, he realized that this was no ordinary white rose. There was a hint of dream puppetry on this white rose. This is the anchor of dream puppetry. There are many levels and changes in the performance of dream puppetry. The most direct and crude one is to directly sneak into the dream and turn people into puppets and walking zombies in the dream. Another method is to use dream puppetry on objects to subtly change a person's spirit and subconsciousness. The former has a huge impact on a person's spirit and subconsciousness, making people's behavior become abnormal, and also it is easy to be discovered, but the latter is very hidden, just like hypnosis and mental and behavioral control of a person are completed unknowingly, and the person being controlled cannot find anything wrong. This handful of white roses just now is the anchor of the medium of dream puppetry. Someone has already tampered with this white rose. When Xiaoning took this handful of white roses just now, she was actually unknowingly manipulated. Anchor, fell into the dream puppetry, but Xiaoning didn't notice it herself, not even Wang Tongqing, the former legion priest next to her, noticed. It is impossible for any summoner on the earth to enter the spiritual world of the earth, because there are not enough Dream Master world beads on the earth, and there is no divine spring. Only those who have bathed in the divine spring at least once can do so after fusing those Dream Master world beads. It is possible to enter the spiritual world, but to perform the dream puppet technique, you must enter the spiritual world to master the secret method of the spiritual world. So, someone is coming. He is not the only one who has entered the spiritual world of the earth from the world of Yuan. Who is it? Almost as soon as this idea came into Xiaopinggan's mind, a person's face clearly appeared in Xiaopinggan's mind. This was the super intuition and dream demon perception of a strong man. Xiaopinggan knew immediately that the dream demon had come to earth. Ever since the last time he fought the dream demon in the capital city of the Great Shang Kingdom, the dream demon had disappeared for many years. Xiaopinggan originally thought that it would be difficult to see this guy again in the future, but to his surprise, this guy had already come to earth. The space passage into the earth has been closed, but the passage to the spirit world still exists. In addition to the passage in the fortress, there is at least one passage on the earth that can lead to the Yuan world. With the dream demon's methods, Xiaopinggan was almost certain that that guy definitely didn't do any good when he came to earth. The current chaotic situation on earth and the Great Yan Kingdom might be related to the dream demon. The dream demon's ability is now on this earth, it is almost invincible. It is simply too easy for the dream demon to turn some ordinary people into puppets. Moreover, Xiaoning was also targeted. Dare to stare at my sister, dream demon, you are seeking death. Xiaopinggan muttered to himself, and his tone suddenly turned cold. The lucky boy had already set his sights on that Du Ben, who was walking towards the school parking lot at the moment. That Wang Tongqing, his eyebrows are very similar to the old man's. He can't be the old man's grandson, right? Xiaopinggan rubbed his face. Silently, Xiaopinggan summoned the Chen-Seeing assassin. The Chen-Seeing assassin sank beneath Xiaopinggan's feet and hid underground using earth escape skills. He followed to protect Xuanning. As long as Xuanning did not fly into the sky, the Chen-seeing assassin he can emerge from the ground to protect her at any time and at any time. With the ability of the sinking star assassin, there is probably no summoner on Earth who can be his opponent at this moment. At this moment, Xia Ping'an, after advancing to the 8 Yang realm, casts spells without any fluctuations in divine power. Even if there is a summoner next to him, he can't feel anything abnormal. After doing all this, Xia Ping'an took the bouquet of white roses in his hand and sat on the bench for a while. Then he sent a message to Li Yunzhou on the Order Committee's Special Service Communication Watch. I'm back. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 735. Du Ben came to the school parking lot. A black luxury car was already waiting here. Seeing Du Ben's arrival, the black luxury car drove out of the parking space and came to him. The driver stopped the car. Opening the door for Du Ben got into the car directly, sat in the back seat, and the vehicle started to drive out of the campus. In the back row of the car, a seductive woman with fiery red hair wearing mink and a short skirt was already sitting there waiting. When she saw Du Ben getting into the car, the woman wrapped herself around him like a snake and hooked him with both hands. Holding Du Ben's neck, she put her hot lips against Du Ben's ear, and her seductive breath went straight into Du Ben's ear. The woman chuckled, biting Du Ben's ear. I really don't know that what's so great about this little girl that our master Du can be so attracted to her. If you really like her, I'll capture her and send her to your bed, he he he. Du Ben seemed to be numb to the woman's teasing. He just frowned coldly and said, don't mess around. Xuanning has a close relationship with the Wang family, and a group of summoners from the Order Committee are watching. You dare to touch her, will cause trouble. At this point, Du Ben suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the woman's neck roughly. As he exerted force, a trace of suffocating pain and moans appeared on the woman's face. The painful his expression was mixed with madness and enjoyment. If you dare to ruin my business, I will kill you. Cough cough cough. As soon as Du Ben's hand loosened, the woman started coughing, but she still pestered Du Ben. The seductive look on her face did not change. The Wang family has lost power, why should we be afraid? Those people in Yizhu, aren't they just An Qing and Fang Lingshan? They can't make much of a splash in the capital area. Wang Zai's influence is still there, and there is more than one Wang Zai in the Wang family. Du Ben shook his head, as if he didn't want to talk anymore, and immediately changed the topic. What about Counselor Lu Feng? Did he agree? That old guy is just a disgusting old pervert. He just invited me to his private restaurant for lunch. The woman smiled disdainfully, but her eyes were a little cold. Every time I see that old guy, I can't wait to see him crush him to death. He is still useful. After the bill is passed, he will be handed over to you. By the way, you three groups should keep an eye on Wang Tongqing these days. Don't let him spoil my affairs. Only 10 minutes after leaving the National University of the Capital Region in Dian Kingdom, the black luxury car drove into the Central Administrative District of the Capital Region and stopped outside a building with a strict appearance and soldiers standing guard. The car stopped and the driver opened the door. Du Ben straightened his clothes, got out of the car and entered the building. When they saw Du Ben, the soldiers standing guard at the door saluted Du Ben. There was a sign hanging outside the building, Internal Affairs Supervision Department of the Military Control Commission of the Great Yan State. Director Du, you are here. As soon as Du Ben entered the building, someone greeted Du Ben warmly. The black luxury car then drove directly to the capital. After a while, the woman in the car walked out of the car in a charming manner, entered the capital, and came to an office. As soon as the office door closed, a fat-bellied old man with grey hair immediately knelt on the ground, hugged the woman, and began to kiss and nibble on the woman's snow-white thighs. No, the woman sneered, but the way she looked at the old man was like looking at a dog. On the bench on campus, Xiaopinggan rubbed the center of his eyebrows. Grandma, why does this capital area feel so chaotic? Fortunately, Li Yunzhou has already replied to the message. At this moment, Li Yunzhou, Tupolu, and Fang Lingshan were all in the capital area. Li Yunzhou was very excited after receiving the news from Xiaopinggan, and directly sent a message to Xiaopinggan. Li Yunzhou and the others were in a manner in Shipingshan, the capital circle. Xiaoning is already in class and everything is normal. Wait a minute, I'll be right over. Xiaopinggan sent a message to Li Yunzhou, then stood up from the bench and walked out of the campus. After arriving outside the campus, he called a taxi at the door and arrived at Shiping Mountain half an hour later. This is one of the wealthy areas in the capital circle. Shiping Mountain faces a bay and has beautiful scenery. There are red oak trees everywhere on Shiping Mountain. Private villas are located in the red oak forests, which are exquisite and elegant. Luxury. After arriving here, Xiaopinggan got off the taxi and within a few steps, he came to a villa that looked like it had a large light gray roof on the outside and a yard full of pine trees. He stopped and took a look. After reading the house number, he rang the doorbell politely. Ding dong, ding dong. After pressing twice, Xiaopinggan raised his head, looked at the camera turned around at the corner of the door, and smiled slightly. Then, he heard violent footsteps in the villa. Just by listening to the sound, he knew it was someone weighing as much as the bear-like Tupolu was running towards the gate. Crash! With a sound, the door of the villa opened, revealing Tupolu's slightly red face with excitement. Behind Tupolu, there were Li Yunzhou and Fang Lingshan, and the three of them came out. It's really you. Looking at Xiaopinggan standing outside the door, Tupolu shouted, opened his arms and gave Xiaopinggan a warm hug. Long time no see. Xiaopinggan patted Tupolu on the shoulder, and then gave Li Yunzhou and Fang Lingshan a heavy hug respectively. Li Yunzhou and Fang Lingshan were also a little excited, but they suppressed it and didn't show it too much. When Xiaopinggan and Fang Lingshan hugged, Tupolu and Li Yunzhou looked around outside the door alertly and found that there was nothing abnormal. They closed the door again, and then took Xiaopinggan back to the living room of the villa. There was a bottle of wine and 3 wine glasses on the bar in the living room. The TV in the living room was on. The three of them seemed to be drinking and chatting here just now. As soon as Xiaopinggan arrived, Tupolu immediately poured Xiaopinggan a glass of wine, and the four of them sat back on the bar. The situation in Dian Kingdom is not very good now. People from the order committee were still looking for you last year. No one noticed that you were in the capital area, right? Li Yunzhou asked. I just came from the National University, you are the first to know. Xiaopinggan picked up the wine glass and clinked the glasses with several people. Each of the four drank a sip of the wine in the glass. Whose house belongs to this? Xiaopinggan put down his wine glass and asked the three of them. The house belongs to that guy Shen Nanfei. I borrowed it to live in for a while. If I have money, I will use it to buy Jizu. Why buy this house? Li Yunzhou shrugged. Shen Nanfei? Xiaopinggan nodded and remembered that Shen Nanfei was Li Yunzhou's super-rich second-generation friend when he was in France last time. It was a bit funny, but his reputation was not bad. The key was that the guy was quite rich. Why are you three in the capital area? Don't you have any missions? Xiaopinggan asked as his eyes flicked around the faces of the three of them. The three of them looked at each other. There was a cloud in the corner of each person's eyes, and the atmosphere in the room suddenly became silent. Something happened to Lao Mo, damn. Tupolu slammed the wine glass on the table and said in a deep voice. No hurry, let's talk slowly. I haven't been back for a long time. I am completely confused about the current situation in the Great Yan Kingdom and on the Earth. I just heard that a province in the southern part of the Great Yan Kingdom was actually invaded by zombies and magic rats. Occupied, and what about the K-virus? The atmosphere in the Order Committee and the capital region doesn't seem to be right. What's going on? Xiaoping'an asked. Yunzhou, tell me. Tupolu looked at Li Yunzhou and poured himself another glass of wine. The situation in all aspects has changed too fast in the past 2 years. Li Yunzhou sighed and began to talk to Xiaoping'an. The current situation in Dian Kingdom, the situation of the Order Committee, the power struggle in the capital area, and some situations in Europe and abroad, etc. Li Yunzhou spoke for almost 10 minutes before he almost explained the situation clearly. Xiaoping'an had been listening quietly, with extremely deep eyes. He waited until Li Yunzhou finished speaking before he asked calmly, "Are you saying that the Devil's Eye may become a legal religious organization, and that there may even be a country seeking to the protection of the Devil's Eye?" "Yes, the current situation is so hummed up," Li Yunzhou said helplessly. "Once you get the protection of the Devil's Eye, you may be protected from the attacks of zombie demon rats and K-virus. Those politicians are all weaklings, as well as those wealthy families. In order to maintain their wealth and power, they are making peace with the eyes of the devil." Tupola cursed with red eyes beside him. Lao Emo was fooled by them. Going in. Looking at the eyes staring at his face, Xiaoping'an just nodded calmly. "Okay, I understand." "What can you do?" Fang Lingshan asked. "This matter is easy to handle. Please write me 2 lists, Xiaoping'an gently knocked on the table with one hand. His expression was not at all anxious, but unusually calm and calm. "List? What list?" Li Yunzhou asked, stunned. Tupolu and Fang Lingshan also looked at Xiaoping'an with some confusion. "The first list, the death list. Who do you think deserves to die in the capital area, and which family should be completely destroyed? As long as the situation of the Great Yan Kingdom can improve after the death of these people and families on the list, you can put them on the list. Yes, the second list is to win over people who can help Dian country quickly stabilize the situation. With these 2 lists, Dian country's problems can be easily solved and it won't take long." After Xiaoping'an finished speaking calmly, he realized that there was silence in the room. The looks of Tupolu, Li Yunzhou and Fang Lingshan turned into shock when they looked at him. Li Yunzhou swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and there was cold sweat on his forehead. Even the most courageous Tupolu was also breathing heavily, his nose opened and closed, his fists were clenched tightly, and he couldn't say a word for a while. Fang Lingshan looked at Xiaoping'an as if she were looking at a madman. She seemed to want to reach out and touch Xiaoping'an's head to see if he had a fever. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 736. Xiaoping'an gently pushed away Fang Lingshan's extended hand, glanced at the 3 of them again, and said calmly, "Don't look at me like that, I'm serious." Do you know what you are talking about?" Li Yunzhou swallowed his saliva, lowered his voice, and asked in shock. "Of course I know. Since I can say it, I am sure it will come true. All you have to do is give me the list and tell me where they are. All disasters have told us that the fastest and most effective way to end a country's disaster is to sweep the garbage that caused the disaster into the garbage heap of history. If the garbage is not swept into the garbage heap, this is the root of national disaster and the root cause of all misfortunes. The root cause of all the current difficulties and disasters in Dian Kingdom is just because there is too much garbage in the capital area, and it's time to clean it up. I support." Tupolu's voice seemed to come from his throat, a low roar, like a storm roaring in his chest. He was breathing heavily, with murderous intent in his eyes, looking at Li Yunzhou and Fang Lingshan. "Actually, you all know what the problem is, but you just don't dare to admit that those people and those families are the tumors and cancers in this country's body. They are also a group of blood-sucking worms, thieves, and robbers. They are sucking the big inflammation. The blood of the country has grown stronger, and now they want to devour the entire country. For the sake of their wealth and status, they actually want to make peace with the eye of the devil and use us as cannon fodder. We can't sit still and wait for death. Damn it, I have long wanted to kill those beasts. Went out. After finishing speaking, Tupolu looked at Xiaopingan with a determined look on his face. From now on, you just tell me what you want me to do and how I can cooperate with you. I only need the list. After confirming the list, leave the rest to me. As long as the people on the list are in the capital area, I only need 1 day to complete this purification operation and restore the country's vitality. Get on the normal track, Xiaopingan said calmly. There is another reason why I insist on using such methods. I think you should know that I just came back today and discovered that the power of the Devil's Eye has penetrated into the capital. The Circle and Order Committee, many politicians and families in the capital circle may have become puppets controlled by the evil eye. Ah! Fang Lingshan and the others exclaimed, and their expressions changed again. Li Yunzhou's face turned a little pale. How is it possible that the capital area is guarded by experts from the Order Committee? It's impossible for people from the Devil's Eye to change the color of our capital area without making any movement, right? If they had such ability, Great Yan Kingdom would have. That's it? Do you still remember how I met you in my dream when I was in Paris? Hearing Xiaopingan's question, the expressions of the three people changed again. You mean, there is someone like you? Fang Lingshan reacted and asked in shock. Yes, there is a master like me at the Devil's Eye now. His name is Dream Demon. He is my sworn enemy. He can turn people into puppets in their dreams. He also comes from the world of Yuan Kaiu. Dream Demon. The forces of demons have already penetrated the capital area. I suspect that the current chaotic situation in the Great Yan Kingdom and around the world, as well as the revival and activity of the Devil's Eyes, are probably related to the Dream Demon. If we cannot end the demons immediately, the current chaotic situation in Yan country may have unimaginable consequences. Tupolu hit his palm hard, making a crisp sound. He gritted his teeth. No wonder, I just said that there is something wrong with those bastards in the capital area. I have long suspected that they are colluding with the Eye of the Devil. Such a move, it makes sense now. Hearing Xiaopingan say that the power of the Devil's Eye has penetrated into the capital area, the atmosphere in the room became tense again. Even Li Yunzhou, who had looked nervous just now, suddenly clenched his fists tightly. The impact of this incident is too great. Although the three of us have some understanding of the situation in the capital area, we are not completely sure about it. Many people in the capital area are not completely sure. Some of the information is just hearsay. This, I'm afraid there will be problems when we draw up the list. Fang Lingshan frowned slightly and said softly, there is only one person who can fully control the situation in the capital area and can draw up this list. You mean, old man? Xiaopingan asked with a look on his face. Fang Lingshan nodded. The old man was squeezed out of power in the Military Control Commission some time ago, but the old man knows the situation in the capital area well. He knows who has problems and who can be won over. The list you need, if it is made by if the old man gives it to you, there will be absolutely nothing wrong, but... Fang Lingshan glanced at Xiaopingan again. The old man doesn't know your true situation yet, only a few of us know your situation. After the last mission, the old man, after asking about your situation, he only knows that there is a summoner named Luoan in France who is very powerful and can cooperate. The old man is very interested in you. The old man is always cautious. It's hard to say whether he will agree with the list. Li Yunzhou added next to him. Xiaopingan tapped the table lightly, his eyes were deep. He was thinking about how Wang Zai would react if he knew his identity and what he wanted to do. After thinking for a few seconds, Xiaopingan's eyes he suddenly became determined and asked, is the old man still in the capital area now? Yes, Tupolu nodded, I heard that the old man has just returned from abroad. The three of us are planning to find time to visit the old man. I think with the old man's character, if he knows what you want to do, he will definitely do it. Support. Can you contact the old man? Fang Lingshan nodded, yes, we can contact the old man's assistant directly. Okay, then you should contact the old man and tell him that Luoan has appeared in the capital area and wants to visit the old man. Ask him if he has time. The three of them looked at each other. Li Yunzhou took out a phone directly from his body and dialed a number. When the phone was dialed, Li Yunzhou just said a few words briefly. He didn't even mention Luoan's name. He just said old man. The very interested man arrived in the metropolitan area and wanted to visit the old man and asked him if he had time. After a few brief words, the call ended. Li Yunzhou put away his phone and took a deep breath. The old man asked us to go there now. Where is the old man? Jianmen Island, there is a helicopter on the backyard apron, let's take a helicopter there. Xiaopinggan had already stood up, let's go then. A few minutes later, a blue and white helicopter took off from the helipad behind the villa. Tupolu was driving the helicopter. After the helicopter took off, it made a smart turn in the sky and flew towards the coastline. Sitting on the helicopter, Xiaopinggan suddenly remembered something and asked Fang Lingshan sitting next to him, does the old man have a grandson named Wang Tongqing? Yes, Fang Lingshan nodded, how do you know? As expected, he is the grandson of the old man and a member of the Wang family. Xiaopinggan smiled bitterly and rubbed his face, Wang Tongqing is now Xianing's boyfriend. Didn't Xianing say that? Ah, Fang Lingshan looked surprised, but also seemed very interested. I came to the metropolitan area 3 months ago and saw Xianing. I also asked Xianing if she had a boyfriend. Xianing said no. I know Xianing should have met the old man's grandson before, but I really didn't know they were in a relationship. And Qing was often with Xianing before, and Qing never said anything. Haha, what's so strange about this? Xianing is already a big girl. There are so many people chasing her. If a girl likes someone and establishes a relationship, maybe 10.5 months is enough. Li Yunzhou laughed beside him. He stood up, and then suddenly found that Xiaopinggan's expression was a little off. Fang Lingshan also stared at him, and the laughter turned into a dry laugh. Cough, cough, I'm talking nonsense, I've been too busy with tasks recently, maybe I didn't pay enough attention to Xianing, I'm sorry. The old man has always been a very strict tutor, and he is well known in the capital area. I knew that Wang Tongqing was a legion priest before, and he performed well. I have never heard any negative news about Wang Tongqing. Xianing has always been smart and independent. She likes it. He should be fine. Fang Lingshan comforted her from the side. By the way, can you tell Xianing that next time you see me, please don't call me uncle, just call me brother. Why do you call me uncle? I'm not that old. 2, who was driving a helicopter, Polu turned his head and muttered. The helicopter arrived at the sea in a short time, and large areas of sea water flew below. In less than 40 minutes, a beautiful island in the sea appeared in front of Xiaopinggan. Before the helicopter stopped, Xiaopinggan had already seen an old man wearing a white gown and a black cane standing there on the lawn next to the helipad on the island. At first glance, he looked like an old man. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 737. The helicopter landed on the apron. The helicopter's blades were still spinning with inertia, stirring up streams of air. Xiaopinggan, Tupolu, Li Yunzhou, and Fang Lingshan had already opened the door of the helicopter and jumped out. The airflow from the helicopter caused the old man's gown to flutter. A resolute and silent man in his 40s with short hair stood next to the old man. That was Pan Lin, the old man's assistant and driver. To Xiaopinggan, Pan Lin was also an acquaintance. I had met him when he was at the Yizhu Provincial Order Committee, but I didn't expect that man to be by the old man's side all the time. The old man Wangzai was standing next to the lawn outside the tarmac, with a smile on his face, and his sharp eyes fell on Xiaopinggan, who stepped off the helicopter. There was no way. Although Xiaopinggan had not shown up for several years, what he did in Paris was very beautiful. He had already registered with the Order Committee and the Dragon Group. He was the focus of both parties. The old man naturally knew him. Seeing the old man again, Xiaopinggan felt a little emotional in his heart. Although the old man looked the same in the past few years, if you look closely, you can find that the old man's temples are like frost and the hair on his head has become a lot whiter. It's just that there is a spirit of energy in his body, and there is also a stubbornness that refuses to admit defeat. At this time, there was no need to waste time. The first time Xiaopinggan saw the old man, he used the dream-making technique to directly drag the old man into the dream. Wangzai looked at Xiaopinggan and was about to speak, but suddenly found that the scene around him faded, and the people and islands around him disappeared instantly. Looking again, the surrounding environment had turned into a training ground. This training ground looked very familiar. It was in the underground training ground inside the Yizhu Provincial Order Committee base. There were arenas in the training area. He was standing next to the arena, and there was nothing around it. If ordinary people encountered such a scene, they would have screamed. However, although the old man Wangzai was shaken in his heart, his expression remained unchanged. He looked at Luoan and found that the whole person of Luoan who was walking over was, his face and figure were changing little by little, becoming the familiar look of Xiaopinggan. Old man, long time no see, Xiaopinggan smiled slightly at Wangzai. What secret technique is this? The old man looked around the training ground, his eyes suddenly became as sharp as swords, staring at Xiaopinggan's face. Ordinary psychedelic techniques do not have such an effect, and it is impossible. Who are you who brought me in without any warning? Old man, this is the secret method of dreaming. You and I are in your dream right now. I am Xiaopinggan, I am authentic, Xiaopinggan said, pointing to the arena in front of him, with a trace of nostalgia on his face. Color, old man, do you still remember? It was on this arena that I defeated Mu Qing Chen. Among all the people, only old man, you can see that before I went on stage, I had actually used the magic acting method to inject something into my head. I defeated Mu Qing Chen here, everything in the ring was the script in my head. Hearing what Xiaopinggan said, the old man's face finally showed a hint of emotion, because the words he and Xiaopinggan said were in his office. Only he and Xiaopinggan were aware of the conversation. Pinggan, are you really, Xiaopinggan? Xiaopinggan nodded. Although the space passage between this world and the Yuankai world has been closed after the Bushan project, there are actually other ways to bring me back. To be precise, this body is just my clone. The owner of the body is indeed Luoan, but Luoan is already dead, so I came back with the help of Luoan's body. Xiaopinggan said, and waved his hand gently. The scene in the training ground in front of him changed again, and suddenly turned into a scene in the world of god-killing insects. He and the old man were standing in the sky, and in the distance, it was what Xiaopinggan was watching that day. Go to the scene where the mad god and the leader of the blood demon cult, Zhu Motion, fight. The scenes that Xiaopinggan saw that day are reproduced here one by one. In the sky hundreds of miles away, a strange rolling red cloud appeared in the sky like a sea of burning blood, carrying the aura of destruction, and seemed to be about to topple down at any time. Above the red cloud of the sea of blood, countless battles the soldiers stand in the clouds like heavenly soldiers and generals, with murderous intent rising to the sky. Zhu Motion is standing in the clouds, the kingdom of God has appeared, the murderous aura of the powerful demigod is shaking the sky and the earth, and the mad god is confronting Zhu Motion. As Zhu Motion moved, the sea of blood in the sky poured down with the flames. Thousands of troops and horses standing on the blood cloud, as well as various exotic beasts and raptors, also rushed down immediately, carrying the power of destroying the heaven and the earth. The entire earth was shaking, and in the sky hundreds of miles away, it was like a blood-colored sky was suddenly pulled up, blocking the sky and the sun. Then, under the sky full of blood and fire and thousands of troops, the mad god punched out, and a golden beam of light suddenly rose into the sky, splitting the blood curtain in the sky into two. The monstrous blood and fire encountered that golden light, just like a rushing wave meeting a standing rock. No matter how fierce the wave was, the rock would not move at all. That ray of golden light illuminated the ground for hundreds of miles as bright as day. The mad god's voice vibrated in the sky like thunder. It was crazy, domineering, with the aura of destroying everything, and it was similar to howling and wailing. What is heaven? What is the Deo? What are all living beings? Why do you want to destroy my family and country? I have already become a god. Why do you want to destroy us? Why do you want to destroy us? What about gods? What about gods? Ha ha ha. A huge energy shock wave rushed towards the face, followed by the mad god's punch, coming from hundreds of kilometers away, sweeping across the mountains, making the air in the sky and the ground tremble. Xuanhuan's bloody divine kingdom descended, and hundreds of millions of demon soldiers surged out like a tide. All the peaks within 100 miles above the ground were instantly shattered and turned into flat ground. Then, Mad God blasted Xuanhuan's kingdom with one punch. The earth changed, the stars moved, and a hole was blasted in the sky. A terrifying shockwave swept everything with white light, rushing towards the two of them. In front of them, met the water shield, and then swept behind the two of them like a torrent. Xuanhuan fled in panic. Everything around him was frozen. Even though Wang Zai claimed to have seen the world, the battle scene in front of him still left a look of shock on Wang Zai's face, and he could not calm down for a long time. Such a battle has completely exceeded the imagination of summoners in this world. Compared with such a strong person, even the strongest summoner on earth is as insignificant as an ant. Old man, this is the battle between the demigods in the world in the Bushan project. These demigods are not the strongest, but any one of them can easily completely destroy our world. The entire capital area, in the face of such a strong man, can turn into deserts and ruins in the blink of an eye. To complete the sky patching plan, we have to face opponents stronger than them. This road is very difficult. When I come back for the first time, I need the world beads. I need all the world beads that I have not fused, so I need your help, old man. Xiaopingan stood in the clouds and said calmly to the old man, I now know a little bit about the situation in the Great Yan Kingdom. In addition to me, there are summoners from the Devil's Eye camp who came to the earth in the same way as me. That one, the man, is called the Dream Demon. He can also control others in dreams and turn them into puppets. He may also have a clone on earth. I found that the Dream Demon has already controlled some people in the capital area, so the Great Yan Kingdom is now, the situation is extremely critical. What state are you in now? What can you do for us? The old man asked Xiaopingan in a hoarse and shocked voice. I am still far away from the realm of demigods. In addition to the world beads, I can do a few things for you when I come back this time to stabilize the situation of the Great Yan Kingdom and the earth. The first thing is that I can bring the capital area and all the people and families who betrayed the country in Dian should be eradicated quickly, and at the same time, those who need to be won over should be obedient and cooperate with me. The second thing is that as long as the Devil's Eye's lair and masters are exposed, I can destroy them. The third thing, I can train a group of top summoners on the earth for the Order Committee. I haven't seen those magic rats and zombies infected with the K virus. They should be controllable. I can try it, maybe. There is a secret way to control them. The surrounding scene suddenly shattered, and the old man was in a daze. He found that he was back on the island again. The blades of the helicopter on the tarmac in front were slowly stopping. Tupolu, Li Yunzhou, Fang Lingshan, and Luoan were standing there. In front of myself. Cough, cough, old man, This is the Luoan you wanted to meet before. Li Yunzhou was introducing Xiaopingan to the old man, and at the same time he looked at Xiaopingan with a strange look. The old man was meeting Xiaopingan just now. When he was safe, he suddenly fell into a trance and looked at Xiaopingan blankly. He didn't speak for a few seconds. Li Yunzhou had to introduce him again. Except for Xiaopingan and the old man, the people around them had no idea what was going on. Everything just happened was like a dream. The old man's heart was filled with emotions, but his face was unusually calm. Under everyone's gaze, the old man took a deep breath and ordered the assistant next to him, Panlin, Taekyunzo, Polu, and others. Lingshan goes to take a rest and let the kitchen prepare lunch. I'll invite everyone to have dinner together later. After saying this, the old man looked at Xiaopingan again. Luo, Mr. An, can you accompany me for a walk? Very happy, Xiaopingan nodded. Everyone knew that the old man wanted to talk to someone alone. Tupolu and the others gave Xiaopingan a wink and left with the old man's assistant. Xiaopingan followed the old man with the cane, left the lawn, and walked along the coast of the island. There are waves of sea waves, and from time to time there are chirping seagulls flying in the sky. Everything on this island has a sense of tranquility. After Tupolu and the others left, the old man took a few deep breaths, looked at Xiaopingan walking beside him with an unprecedented look, and shook his head. Unbelievable, it's too unbelievable. Yes, I never thought that I could come back in this way, Xiaopingan said calmly. After the last mission in Paris, I found that the strength of Polu and the others who were on the mission with you have improved slightly, and everyone's upper limit of divine power has increased a lot. I was surprised before, but I finally understand it today, the old man. Looking at the sea, he exhaled and looked at Xiaopingan again. Why is your upper limit of divine power only a little over 1,000 points? Xiaopingan knew that the old man's ability was to see the upper limit of other people's divine power. He smiled and said, how many do you think you have now? The old man looked at Xiaopingan again, and the look on his face finally revealed a look of surprise, but that look of surprise disappeared in an instant. He smiled bitterly, shook his head, and finally believed Xiaopingan's words, because at this moment, he could no longer see it at all. What is the upper limit of Tou Xiaoping's divine power? When he looked with his ability, the old man felt that what he saw was a turbulent sea of divine power. It was so amazing. This was something he had never experienced on Earth for countless years. Matter. Do Polu and the others know your identity? The old man asked. I knew it when I was in Paris last time. I didn't hide it from them. The old man nodded and asked another question, what are you going to do without my help? Old man, let me tell you this, I can make all the non-summoner politicians and officials in the capital area become my slaves and puppets within half a month. I can also make the disobedient summoners in the capital area overnight. Clean them all. If I want, I can be the president of Dian Kingdom or the chairman of the Military Control Commission, but these are meaningless to me. If you are not here, old man, without your help, in order to avoid more tragedies, I will use my methods to control and transform the great Yan Kingdom. Of course, this process may take a little longer, and more people will die. The great Yan Kingdom may also need a longer time to adapt, but this is nothing, any change they have all made sacrifices, and it is better to sacrifice those people than to have Dian Kingdom bury them with them, Xiaopingan said calmly. Hearing what Xiaopingan said, the old man suddenly stopped. Looking at Xiaopingan, his eyes suddenly became sharp, and he suddenly asked a question, are you still the summoner of the Order Committee? Of course, Xiaopingan nodded, his face became resolute, and he looked into the old man's sharp eyes. I have always been the summoner of the Order Committee, but Yan Duo and I gave up everything and participated in mending the sky plan. From the moment I passed through that space passage, I am only responsible for the fate of this planet and the future of all people living on this planet. This is a higher order that overrides everything else. Hearing what Xiaopingan said, the old man's sharp eyes suddenly converged. He turned his head and continued walking, looking at the boundless sea. Xiaopingan followed him. After walking 100 meters, the old man's footsteps slowed down some more. "Have you seen Li Chongyang?" The old man looked at Xiaopingan and asked. "Li Chongyang?" Xiaopingan nodded. Of course he had seen it before. When he first participated in the Tianmending project, Li Chongyang came to see Xiaopingan and the others off on behalf of the officials of the Great Yan Kingdom. Li Chongyang is now also the #1 figure in Dian Kingdom, the chairman of the Military Control Commission and the president of Dian Kingdom. "I believe you are Xiaopingan, but you can't prove your words. You still need to prove your abilities before I and the people behind me can be convinced." The old man looked at Xiaopingan and said calmly, "In the past year, Li Chongyang's attitude is a bit ambiguous, and he is too indulgent towards those in the capital area who want to compromise with the eye of the devil. His attitude towards the Order Committee has also changed somewhat. If you can get Li Chongyang to come here within 3 days, talk to me on the island and give up the so-called reform bill on the Order Committee that he wants to implement, then I believe you have the ability to do what you just said." 3 days, a smile appeared on Xiaopingan's face. "If you think there's not enough time, you can extend it a little longer. Where is Li Chongyang now?" "He inspected the garrison in the capital area this morning and should be at the garrison headquarters in the capital area now. It's easy. It won't take 3 days. I asked him to come over tonight and wait for arrangements." Xiaopingan smiled. "I have to leave for a while now and will be back before lunch." After Xiaopingan said that, he suddenly disappeared under the old man's eyes. The old man didn't even notice how Xiaopingan left. The old man stood there blankly for a while, then shook his head and smiled bitterly, without saying a word, and continued walking on the island. Xiaopingan just disappeared. Not only did he not know how Xiaopingan left, he didn't even feel the fluctuation of divine power. Especially the latter. This means that Xiaopingan's current ability is completely beyond his imagination, because in the cognitive system of summoners in this world, all summoner spells will bring about fluctuations in divine power. The fluctuations of divine power can be sensed and detected. This is what the predecessors of the Order Committee, the Demon Suppressor and the Lamplighter, did. Half an hour later, Xiaopingan had arrived above the campus of the garrison headquarters in the capital area. Looking from the sky, the garrison is heavily guarded. All senior officers of the garrison are gathered here. Tens of thousands of soldiers from the garrison are gathered on the school field. There are many armored tanks and guns. They are majestic. The camouflage command vehicle was driving slowly on the school grounds. Li Chongyang, who was wearing a military uniform and looked majestic, was reviewing the troops in the command vehicle, raising one hand gently. "Long live the Great Yan Kingdom! Long live!" The tsunami roaring from the mountains on the campus was deafening. There were many summoner masters and bodyguards on the vehicles beside Li Chongyang. Xiaopingan was in a state of invisibility. None of the summoners present noticed that a strong man from the 8 Yang realm was coming in the sky above the school grounds. The gap between the two sides is really too big. Xiaopingan glanced at Li Chongyang, and without any nonsense, he directly summoned a yes man. The summoned yes bug was more than 2 inches tall, invisible and colorless, and could only be seen by Xiaopingan. The yes bug flashed slightly in Xiaopingan's eyes, and followed the wind, directly attached to Li Chongyang's body. Li Chongyang and everyone around him, none of them were aware of it. After finishing all this, when Xiaopingan returned to the island, lunch on the island had not yet started, and the old man was still walking alone on the island. Xiaopingan appeared next to the old man again, as if he had never left. He looked at the old man and said, "Li Chongyang comes here tonight, he is mine now." Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 738. When Li Chongyang arrived at Jianmen Island, it was already dark. The whole island was dimly lit, and all he could hear was the sound of waves kissing the beach. Xiaopinggan, Wang Zai, and Tupolu had already finished their dinner. "It's dark, what are you doing out here, blowing the sea breeze?" When Xiaopinggan and the old man walked out of the villa, Tupolu and the others also came out. Tupolu looked at the sea in the distance and muttered honestly. One sentence. In the afternoon, Tupolu and the others talked with the old man all afternoon, discussing with the old man the prevailing situation in the order committee and their demands, especially the matter of young Master Mo Yan being taken away for investigation. After hearing this, the old man was non-committal, unusually calm, and made no statement. As for the list, Xiaopinggan told Tupolu and the others that there was no rush, and the three of them didn't say anything. "It's so late. Is anyone coming? And it's so grand that the old man comes out to greet you." Li Yunzhou was more careful. He originally thought that the old man was taking everyone for a walk on the beach. Unexpectedly, the old man came directly with everyone. "Where the island's helipad is located. This apron is located, surrounded by a large lawn, larger than a football field, and the terrain is very open." After listening to Li Yunzhou's words, the old man smiled and glanced at Xiaopinggan. "You asked him?" Li Yunzhou looked at Xiaopinggan, who shrugged and said easily, "Someone you know is coming later. If everything goes well, you won't encounter anything like Lao Mo again in the future." "Ah, who do you know?" Li Yunzhou asked in surprise. Xiaopinggan did not answer him, because at this moment, the roar of rotor helicopters could be heard in the sky. 3 grey-painted rotor helicopters flew towards here from the sea. As soon as the rotor helicopters appeared, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. The rotor helicopter is larger, faster, and has a longer range than a helicopter. It is the most advanced military equipment of the Great Yan Kingdom. It has the hovering and multi-purpose performance of a helicopter, but also has the speed and endurance of a jetliner. You can't buy this thing even if you have money. The 3 rotor helicopters flew directly over the apron, and then slowly landed on the lawn. When he saw the special symbol of a dragon holding a shield and a sword on the rotor helicopter, Tupolu almost screamed, his eyes widened. "Political Security Department of the Military Control Commission." "No way," Li Yunzhou was also shocked. He looked at the old man with worried eyes. Only after seeing the old man's calm expression did he feel relieved. They are not fools or blind people. They have all seen the special logo on the helicopter. The Political and Security Department of the Military Control Commission is a special organization of the Military Control Commission. It has very powerful powers. It is only responsible to the Military Control Commission and directly takes orders from the chairman of the Military Control Commission, which is now the #1 figure in Dian Kingdom. The entire Political and Security Department of the Military Control Commission has gathered the most elite forces in Dian, including masters of summoners and elite agents and special operations personnel. The Special Service and Security Department of the Military Control Commission can directly supervise the Order Committee. And the military's actions are a sharp sword for the chairman of the Military Control Commission to control the capital area. Previously, Dian Kingdom did not have this organization. In the past 2 years, as the domestic situation in Dian Kingdom changed, in order to cope with emergencies in the capital area and strengthen its own power, it was previously responsible for protecting important figures in the capital area. With the support of Li Chongyang, the leader of the country, the Secure Department of Special Service and Security of the Great Yan State and the Ministry of Internal Security of the Military completed the merger and became the Political and Security Department of the Military Control Commission. The power was overwhelming and it seemed that it was already in the hands of Li Chongyang. A powerful elite operational force dedicated to Li Chongyang, the Order Committee and the military are both supervised and controlled by the Political and Security Department of the Military Control Commission. Wherever the Political Security Department of the Military Control Commission appears, it is either to protect important figures and bosses in the Military Control Commission, or, conversely, to arrest or eliminate certain important figures. 3 rotor helicopters landed on the lawn in a Z-shaped pattern. The door of the first rotor helicopter opened. A team of more than 10 people wearing black uniforms, sunglasses, and headsets and holding firearms quickly got off the rotor helicopter and took control of the lawn. In the surrounding strategic areas, the door of the second rotor helicopter opened, and another group of people came down. The group coming down from the back did not have firearms in their hands, but they had the aura of the summoner on their bodies. Some of them had, on their hands, also holding a heart lamp. The group behind quickly disappeared into the darkness around the lawn. Then, the door of the third rotor helicopter opened, and Li Chongyang, who was wearing a military uniform and with a majestic temperament, stepped out of the rotor helicopter. Seeing Li Chongyang arriving in person, Tupolu and the other 3 were stunned. None of them expected that Li Chongyang would come to Jianmen Island in person. They didn't expect that they could actually see the number 1 figure in the Great Yan Kingdom by coming here today. Surrounded by several bodyguards, Li Chongyang strode towards the old man. He met the old man just like a normal meeting, shaking hands and whispering a few words. The old man also turned Xiaoping'an beside him and slaughtered the 4 people to Li Chongyang. Chongyang said that nothing was out of the ordinary. Even when Li Chongyang and Xiaoping'an met, it was as if they were meeting for the first time, and nothing was wrong. Afterwards, the group of people returned directly to the old man's villa. Li Chongyang directly asked his bodyguards to guard outside the villa, while he entered the villa with the old man, Xiaoping'an, and the others. After entering the villa, the old man took Li Chongyang to the study for a private conversation, while Xiaoping'an and the others stayed in the living room. Why did Li Chongyang come? Tupolu lowered his voice and asked Xiaoping'an after the old man and Li Chongyang entered the study. You'll know in a while, Xiaoping'an smiled slightly. Why do I feel that you are not surprised at all? Fang Lingshan looked at Xiaoping'an's face. You didn't arrange it, did you? What is so scary about a woman's intuition? Xiaoping'an smiled, looked at Fang Lingshan and asked, if you have a narrow escape like me, you won't be surprised by anything. By the way, do you think I can arrange such a thing? What? Haha, how is that possible? Li Yunzhou curled his lips in disbelief at first, but after he finished speaking, thinking of Xiaoping'an's magical power, Li Yunzhou became a little doubtful and became uncertain. Probably not. Xiaoping'an didn't explain anything further. 20 minutes later, the old man and Li Chongyang walked out of the study together. It's a pleasure to meet you all today. You are all the elites and backbones of the summoners. You are the cornerstone of the stability of the Great Yan Kingdom and the continuation of mankind. The Great Yan Kingdom will need to rely on you more in the future. Li Chongyang, with the bearing of a chairman, and Tupolu, Xiaoping'an, and the others shook hands, but nothing unusual could be seen. The look on the old man's face was solemn but also a little exciting, and he said in a deep voice, Tupolu, Li Yunzhou, Fang Lingshan, the 3 of you will return to the capital area with Chairman Chongyang. From now on, you will be transferred from the Order Committee by the Chairman. The attendant office of the First Bureau of the Political and Security Department of the Military Control Commission has been promoted to 1 level. Young Master Mo Yan has also been transferred by the Chairman to the First Bureau of the Political and Security Department of the Military Control Commission as the Deputy Director. Later you can take the transfer order directly to the Internal Affairs Supervision of the Military Control Commission. Let's bring young Master Mo Yan back. Yes, Tupolu and the other 3 glanced at each other. There was a look of excitement in the eyes of all 3 people. They didn't expect that Lao Mo's matter would be solved like this. In terms of institutional functions, the Internal Affairs Supervision Department of the Military Control Commission is run by the Military Control Commission, a subordinate organization under the leadership of the Political and Security Department of the Committee. The 3 of them were worried about Mo Yanshao before. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, Mo Yanshao changed from the subject of investigation by the Internal Supervision Department to the leader of the Superior Department of the Internal Supervision Department. This change of identity was so exciting. Thinking of the faces of those rubbish that had taken Mo Yanshao away before, Tupolu and the other three felt so happy just thinking about it. Old man, what about him? Li Yunzhou glanced at Xiaopinggan and asked. Mr. Luoan and I still have important things to do. You don't need to ask any more questions. Just execute the order immediately. Yes, Li Yunzhou and the other two stood upright. A moment later, 3 rotor helicopters took off again from the island. The old man and Xiaopinggan took 1 rotor helicopter alone. After that rotor helicopter took off, it joined the 2 rotor helicopters carrying Li Chongyang and Tupolu. They separated and headed in another direction. Old man, is the list out? Xiaopinggan asked on the plane. Li Chongyang and I have reached a consensus in many places. It's almost over, but there is one person who must be removed tonight on the rotor helicopter, the old man said to Xiaopinggan with a solemn expression. As long as that person is alive, he will be a huge threat to us. Except for one person, Xiaopinggan smiled slightly. The capital area will be very lively tonight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 739. The person who can make Li Chongyang and the old man in front of him treat him so seriously, and feel that if he doesn't remove that person, may threaten the success or failure of the plan, he is probably a giant in Dian, with huge influence, but in Xiaopinggan's eyes, there is no giant crocodile, just a loach in a small pool. No matter what ability or power that person has, as long as that person is the person who creates disasters, in his eyes, it is not worth mentioning. Xiaopinggan only cares about one thing. Where is that person? The old man glanced at Xiaopinggan, and then lowered his gaze. His eyes were a little complicated, and he sighed in a low voice, in Qiuashi Mountain, east of the capital circle. It's him, Xiaopinggan reacted immediately, feeling a little surprised, because everyone in the Great Yan Kingdom, especially the summoner, knew who and what family lived in Qiuashi Mountain in the capital area. That person and that family were extremely powerful in Dian. Long before Xiaopinggan became a summoner, he had heard countless legends about that person. Therefore, he knew the place as soon as the old man mentioned it. Before Li Chongyang came to power, the man the old man was talking about served as the chairman of the Order Committee of the Great Yan Kingdom. That person's son-in-law served as the president of the Great Yan Kingdom for 2 consecutive terms. That man was once the legendary great leader of the Great Yan Kingdom. The number 1 strongest among the summoners of Yan Kingdom. There is news that many years ago, that person's cultivation level has broken through the 10 Yuan realm, and his cultivation level is unfathomable. The place where that person lived before was not called Qiuashi Mountain, but later it was gradually called Qiuashi Mountain by the public because of that person. If it were in the past, before participating in the Sky Mending project, Xiaopinggan could only look up to such people, but now, the so-called 10 Yuan realm and above on the earth are just like ants, and they can't compare to a person. A summoner from the 4 Sun realm. Xiaopinggan was just a little shocked, because he didn't expect that the legendary figure and family would be his first target. That's right, it's him, Luo Zhenxiao. The old man nodded, with a smile that seemed helpless and sad. Who would have thought that the strongest summoner and first family in the Great Yan Kingdom was actually who is the biggest mastermind who colluded with the Devil's Eye to betray the Great Yan Kingdom? That person used to be my superior, but now, half of the responsibility for the chaos in the capital area is related to that person, and I have taken control of it. Conclusive evidence, with the support of the Devil's Eye and foreign forces, the Luo family is now planning a coup, preparing to overthrow Li Chongyang with the help of the raging demon disaster. Luo Zhenxiao is preparing to let his son come back to power and take control of the Military Control Commission, and then officially recognize the legal status of the Devil's Eye. Alas! Xiaopingyan shook his head and sighed, "It's already like this, why do you still do such a thing?" 2 years ago, the European Parliament prepared to pass the European Financial Transparency Act in the name of anti-money laundering and anti-international corruption. Once this bill is passed, all deposit accounts of European banks will be decrypted. You know that once this bill is passed, it will have a huge impact on everyone. Does it mean anything to some people and certain politician families in Yan country? Once their families' trillion-level black gold accounts are exposed, they will bear the wrath of the whole country. So, the European Financial Transparency Act is a tool to coerce certain powerful people and families in Dian into submission. The old man nodded. The devil's eyes have pinpointed their weaknesses. Their wealth cannot be seen. It has become a noose around the necks of some people and some families. The other end of the noose is in Europe. The devil's eye has the ability to tighten the noose through the European Parliament and European banks. On the other hand, as the K-virus rages, the devil's eye's power will expand rapidly, and the devil's eye also has the ability to some people provide some taboo secret medicines that can slow down aging. It is under this situation that some families and forces in Dian begin to change their colors and become a force that merges with the evil eye, causing harm to the country and the people. So, some people who are called national warriors are actually national traitors. Xiaopingyan shook his head. Luo Zhenxiao also has another identity. He is the executive of the Order Committee. He also has a key in his hand. That key is one of the 2 keys to open the Order Committee's World Bead secret treasury. The Order Committee's World Bead, the secret vault, contains samples of world beads collected by the Order Committee. Only by getting the key in his hand can you enter the Order Committee's secret vault to select the world beads you need. Xiaopingyan narrowed his eyes. Who has the other key to the Order Committee's World Pearl secret treasury? The key in Li Kongyang's hand, together with the nuclear suitcase in Li Kongyang's hand, is the symbol of power of the chairman of the Military Control Commission. After you get the key in Luo Zhenxiao's hand, you can enter the Order Committee World Pearl secret treasury. Okay, I understand. Is the secret treasury of the Order Committee's World Pearl in the capital area? Yes, it's in the capital area, but that place is very secret. It's one of the top secrets of the Order Committee. Even I don't know where it is, the old man said, turning his head and looking out the window of the rotor helicopter. Also, it's more than 70 kilometers to Qiashi Mountain. This rotor helicopter cannot fly directly to Qiashi Mountain. It can only land at an Air Force base more than 20 kilometers away from Qiashi Mountain. Luo Zhenxiao is very difficult to deal with. For tonight's action, I will cooperate with you to complete it. In order to carry out the subsequent plans, Luo Zhenxiao's death should be as good as the Devil's Eye's attack. Like the Devil's Eye did it? Yes, the old man nodded. You can ask for anything you need. That person is in Qiashi Mountain now, are you sure? Confirm. There will be a celebrity cocktail party in the capital area where that person lives tonight. His son-in-law is celebrating his birthday and the powerful are gathering. That person will also show up at the cocktail party. After the cocktail party is over, we can look for opportunities to take action. Okay, just let the plane hover here for 20 minutes. Master, just wait for me to come back. The old man was stunned for a moment. This place is thousands of meters above the ground. You let the plane hover here and let me wait for you here for 20 minutes. Yes, this is a small matter, I will be back soon. Do you call this a trivial matter? The old man glanced at Xiaopingyan and said nothing. He just pressed the communication switch in the cabin and asked the pilot of the rotorcraft in front to hover the plane here. In the entire cabin of the plane, apart from the 2 pilots in the cockpit, there were only 2 people, the old man and Xiaopingyan. After receiving the old man's request, the flying rotor helicopter stopped in the air. Then, under the watch of the old man, Xiaopinggan opened the hatch on one side of the rotor helicopter with a loud bang, and disappeared in a flash. The old man looked at him blankly, and then quickly looked outside the cabin door. However, in the night sky outside the cabin door, everywhere was empty, and not a single person could be seen. The old man took a breath, and suddenly thought of something in his mind. He muttered to himself, "Could it be able to fly?" Of course Xiaopinggan can fly, and the speed is not slow. The moment Xiaopinggan flew out of the rotor helicopter and disappeared, the God of Fortune boy had already arrived at Qiuashi Mountain. There is a red maple forest on Qiuashi Mountain. There are some high-end villas and courtyards scattered on the mountain, as well as a national observatory in Dian Kingdom. Among those courtyards, there is a villa area with the largest area. The location is the most conspicuous and the security is the highest. The God of Fortune boy arrived at the villa in an instant. The lights in the villa were brightly lit, and in the parking lot outside the villa, cars, beautiful women, rich people, and dignitaries gathered one after another. The celebrities from the metropolitan area who came here were all smiling and feeling honored. They had no idea what would happen next. Like an omnipotent elf, the God of Fortune boy only flashed a few times in the villa. In less than 15 seconds, the God of Fortune boy appeared somewhere underground in the villa. This place is arranged like a gorgeous underground palace, located hundreds of meters deep underground in the mountain. It is extremely hidden and safe. There is only one elevator and one staircase that can lead to it. An old man with silver hair, a plump forehead, a hooked nose, and a loose robe was in this room. His whole body was surrounded by a red blood light, and he did not notice the arrival of the God of Fortune at all. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 740. In the red light, a 7 or 8-year-old boy was caught by the old man. The old man's eagle-like fingers pressed on the boy's head. The red light enveloped the old man and the boy. The boy's head there were red devil eyes painted all over his body and body, like a strange ritual. The boy was struggling as if he was getting an electric shock. His originally rosy face and delicate skin were gradually turning gray. Withered and blackened, the vitality of the whole person seemed to be constantly passing away. On the other hand, the old man was on the contrary. While the boy's vitality was rapidly passing away, the wrinkles on the old man's face and forehead seemed to be being smoothed away by a strange force, and the old man's originally gray face was showing a faint smile. It is rosy and shiny, and some age spots are fading. Even some of the hair roots under the old man's silver hair have begun to turn black. The old man's originally loose skin and muscles have also become tighter. The robe, the originally flabby belly under the lower abdomen, seemed to have become a little smaller without even realizing it. The red light finally dissipated, and the boy in the old man's hands had become like a mummy, with a look of pain on his face, while the old man was full of energy, his face was full of red light, and he looked much better. Huh! The old man let out a long breath and stood up, holding the boy's body in one hand. The old man walked to the corner of the room and opened the door. Behind the door was a deep pool of more than 10 meters. There was water, and crocodiles were in the pool one after another. When they heard the door opening, the crocodiles with eyes red from hunger began to roll over, making the water turbid. Then, the old man threw the boy's body into the deep pool like trash. Amidst the rolling and biting bites of the crocodiles, the boy's body disappeared under the water in the blink of an eye, leaving no trace of debris behind. There is nothing left. The old man returned to the room, looked up through the mirror in the room, and saw that his body and face had regained some youthfulness under his robe. There was not much smile on his face, but instead he frowned. This life extraction, the effect of the spell is getting weaker and weaker. It is only 1/5 of the previous one. It is necessary to master higher level life extraction spells. When talking about the life extraction technique, the old man's face showed a hint of ferocious fanaticism. For those who are unwilling, the fear of time, aging and death will make them completely hysterical and desperate. With this thought in mind, the old man walked to a desk in the room and was about to press the red button under the desk when the door of the room was lightly knocked several times by someone from outside. "Come in." The old man retracted his hand and shouted softly outside. The door to the room opened, and guarding outside the room were several summoned soldiers whose figures flashed with a faint red light. A man wearing a black evening gown and tie, well dressed and elegant, with delicate skin on his face without a trace of wrinkles, and who looked to be in his 60s or 70s with only a few gray hairs, walked into the room from outside and bowed slightly to the old man. "Father, the guests have almost arrived. You have not appeared in public in the capital area for a long time. Many people came here tonight to visit you and to know about your health. Look, I have passed. Will you go up and say hello to everyone in a moment?" The man who came in was not young, but compared to the old man inside, he was indeed young. If there are other people from the Great Yan Kingdom here, they will definitely be shocked by their identities when they see the two faces in this room. The two people in this room, one is known as the legendary summoner of the Great Yan Kingdom. The Great Yan Kingdom, the most powerful man in the world, was the pillar of the country, and the one who came in later was the number one figure in the Great Yan Kingdom. The old man is Luo Zhenxiao, and the person who came in behind is his son, Luo Ting. The father and son have always been legendary in the capital area of the Great Yan Kingdom, and the Luo family has naturally become one of the top families in the Great Yan Kingdom. "Okay, I understand, you go up first, I will be up in a while." Luo Zhenxiao waved his hand gently. "One more thing," the man who came in hesitated slightly. "What's up?" "I just received news that tonight, just half an hour ago, Li Chongyang arrived at Jianmen Island. We finally kicked Wang 11 and that old guy away from the Military Control Commission, and we are eliminating that old guy bit by bit. Dongzi's influence on the Order Committee is now opening up holes for Wang 11 and his subordinates. Father, what do you think Li Chongyang's arrival at Jianmen Island means? Should we make some preparations?" asked the man who came in. The old man frowned slightly and his eyes flashed. Li Chongyang arrived at Jianmen Island, alone or with someone else. He is the only one, so we don't know what Li Chongyang talked about with Wang Zai. Wang Zai went to Europe some time ago and disappeared for half a month. There is news that Wang Zai secretly met with Europe's several hardline representatives in the parliament and Prince Pilasus. I suspect that our family's account situation in the European Bank may have been controlled by Wang Zai. That old man is the most stubborn and cunning. Maybe something has been discovered. It doesn't matter. This is not a secret in the first place. As long as the bill in the European Parliament is not passed, we will have no problem. It's just a tacit understanding. Even if Li Chongyang knows something, he is a smart man and he doesn't dare to mess with it now. Li Chongyang, if there is any chaos, the capital area will turn over, and we will take the opportunity to attack." The old man's face showed the calmness that was used to seeing the storm, and there was also a sneer. "Keep an eye on the situation at the Military Control Commission office. With Commander Liu's position, as long as there are no problems in these two places, there will be no problem. At the same time, let the Internal Affairs Supervision Department pay close attention. If there is no flaw in that old guy, I don't believe that the people around him have no flaws either. All I have to do is find a flaw and tear it open. That old guy can't make big waves now. If necessary, I will go find him personally. He is not my opponent yet. Then I will just take action with someone disguised as the Devil's Eye." "Yes," Luo Ting nodded. "By the way, people from the Mu family and Su family are also here today." "Well, I understand. I will meet them later to reassure them." "Okay, then I'm going up." Luo Ting then left the room and closed the door. After Luo Ting left, the old man raised his head and looked at the ceiling, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Wang Zai, I hope you don't want to die. There are some things you can't stop." After saying this, the old man stretched out his hand again, press the red button under the table. A wall next to the table slid open quietly, revealing a secret room inside. There was an altar in the secret room, and a ferocious-looking statue was enshrined in the center of the altar. The old man came to the altar, cut his finger, and dripped the blood from his finger onto the statue. Then he knelt on the ground and muttered words. In the blink of an eye, the old man fell into a dream as if falling asleep. At this moment, in the room next to him, Xiaoping's figure walked out calmly like a shadow from behind a wall of the room. This is the Luo family of the Great Yan Kingdom. Xiaoping shook his head in disappointment, and then walked calmly to Luo Zhenxiao, who was kneeling in front of the statue in the altar, and looked at what he had seen on TV and various news reports since he was a child. It was a face I had seen more than once, and the eyes were even colder. At this moment, Luo Zhenxiao, in Xiaoping's eyes, was like a maggot crawling on the ground. Xiaoping looked at the statue, and then his eyes flashed. Dream demon, I finally found you. The altar and statue in front of you are a kind of secret method in the spiritual world, which can allow people to quickly fall into a dream through a special prayer ceremony, and actively contact the pastor in the dream. The Luo Zhenxiao in front of him was definitely the most valuable target in Dian to the dream demon. The corruption and betrayal of Luo Zhenxiao and the Luo family did not seem to be entirely accidental. Xiaoping raised his lips slightly, took out his formation disc, and first covered the entire room to protect it. Then he stretched out his hand and pressed it on Luo Zhenxiao's head. As soon as he closed his eyes, he entered the spirit world in an instant.